If you're wondering what it takes to be a touring artist, a touring musician, and be out there on the road, then this podcast episode is for you because my special guest today is a touring artist, a touring vocalist, and she is going to be sharing some background information and some industry insights about touring. So please welcome my good friend, Miss Chelsea Cymone. Chelsea, how you doing?
Hey, I'm doing good. How are you doing today?
I'm doing good. So let's go ahead and jump right in on this thing. And how about you to start by telling us a little bit about your journey, like your background in music and how you got started and what your musical journey has been?
Oh, okay. So basically, I am from Houston, Texas, born and raised. My background stems from my family, and it stems from the Baptist church. So my grandmother and my mother instilled singing in church in me from a young age. And so that's how I really got my background, just like every famous person who sings.
Yeah.
But it's definitely a testament that prepares you to be where you want to be if you go through this path of being an entertainer and entertainment and things like that. So got my start in the Baptist church, and basically I just went from there. My mom put me in school and put me in all the fine arts camps, and I didn't want to do it, but little did I know that was preparing me for who I've become. So thank you, Mom, for that.
Gotcha. So that's really cool. Yes, I know a lot of us musicians and artists and singers got started in the church. So that's definitely something that's familiar for me. So like, how did you start touring then? Like, what was your break in the industry where you were able to get out there on the road and start touring with, major artists?
It started when I dropped out of college. I believe it was maybe 2016. I dropped out of school. I went to Caribbean University. I was majoring in music performance. I had this track to become an opera singer, and my father passed away, and I dropped out. And as soon as I dropped out, I realized that path wasn't necessarily the path that I wanted. It was what my family saw for me. And immediately I started, gigging in the city, taking corporate gigs with companies, and eventually I started working for an entertainment company called Ernest Walker Entertainment, and being under their group offered me opportunities to work with major artists. So I first started doing spot dates, which is basically touring, but in a smaller form, with Shantae Moore. She was my first artist that I worked for. And then after that, I went for Regina Bell, and working for older legends first is very much it's underappreciated, I think, because they taught me so much. They taught me about business. They taught me how to carry myself in the business. They never let me slack in any kind of way. Like if I was missing a note, or if I was half-assing anything, like they really called me out on it, and they held me to the fire. And I love Auntie Regina Bell. Have a tour coming up with her in November, so I'm glad I get to see her again. I haven't seen her in years, but she literally instilled the wholeness of being in the business, if for lack of a better phrase. But basically, she just basically told me how to stay grounded in this business as a woman, and to have respect in the business. So very
That's really
grateful for
good.
that. So
Yeah,
that's how I got my start.
That's really cool, man. Like that's to be able to tour with older musicians and older artists. That's kind of how I got started as well. With when I started gigging and stuff like that, I was touring with people who were like 20, 30 years older than me. And, you definitely learn a lot of lessons. You get a lot of, industry insights, and they spill the beans to you, so, but that brings me to the next question. So like, what would you say are some of the like biggest lessons that you've learned from touring, and just from, just some tidbits that you've gotten from those artists and that you've learned yourself just from being out there on the road?
I would say the biggest lesson that I've learned would be to remain humble. I think you should always be in a learning position as you're serving in your position, because being a background singer, you're not up front. So you're in a position where you are serving the artist, and you should always remain in a learning position, because that's how you grow and develop your craft. That's how you grow and develop as an artist, if you can learn from a serving position that and you eventually want to become in the forefront, you're already prepared because you've already, put in the groundwork to serve someone else and to learn from those experiences, watching them, seeing them on stage, seeing how they prepare, seeing how they entertain a crowd and how they are just, fully confident in their position. So people always think background singing is super easy, and it's really not. But if you are operating in a mentality of serving and learning, I think you will do well as a background singer.
Yeah, that's really dope insight. Definitely have a humble spirit and, be work withable and be able to, just be a team player. That's always, good information for us all in any industry, but especially us in the music industry to be able to work well with others. So that's really good insight that you learned. So how about then tell me a little bit about like your formal training then. So like you mentioned being in college and starting with, in music performance and, not finishing or whatever. How do you think that some of the formal training that you've had, how do you think that has affected, or has it at all affected any of the ways that you perform now? Does it have any impact on it? So I guess what I'm asking is, do you feel like the formal education that you have, that it's being used in what you do now?
Oh, definitely. It's definitely being used. From elementary school to high school, I was in vocal training. My entire development's been to develop my voice. And the thing about being trained is that when you come from a church background, most people who aren't trained only, I don't know how to word it, but they basically only have like one dimensional type of sound. As far as their voice is concerned, they don't really have any range to adapt in a pop setting or R&B setting or jazz setting. They're only one dimensional. So the training has done for my voice is that it spread my voice out to be multi-dimensional. I always ask God, like, why did you give me this? Like, why did you make it so that, I can sing anything? And I say that humbly because my voice is trained to where my tonality can adjust to any genre. And that's what makes the work come. And that's what makes, it easy to sustain a career as an entertainer or a singer or a vocalist. And it's like training, I was training everything. Training, basically, my vocal teacher in college used to tell me all the time, you're a musician too, but you carry your instrument. So it's not like you can just go and plug it in and then you start playing, or you just blow into it and you start playing. It's different. You carry your instrument with you. So how you live, how you eat, how you talk, it's all a part of sustaining your voice. And people ask me all the time, how come you never sick or how come you never chorus? It's because I know how to sing correctly. I use the microphone. That's what it's for. And I don't ever oversing. I don't feel I'm not singing from my throat or like from an unsupported place. And so definitely training has helped. I would suggest vocal training to any vocalists. Training definitely is sustaining my life right now.
Are you a musician, artist, or band looking to make some serious passive income and build a huge fan base? Then you should absolutely start a YouTube channel today. And that's because right now, YouTube is the biggest opportunity for bands and musicians to make money and build a huge following around their craft. And this is the reason that the premier YouTube QuickStart course for musicians was created. This course is designed to get you up and running on YouTube very quickly and easily. And the best part is it's completely free and you can get instant access to it at the link in the description of this video.
So, I mean, that brings me to a question I wanted to ask. So like, you're actually talking to me now. We're talking while you are currently on tour right now. And we're talking to me from your hotel room where you are. And I'm wondering, with like such a really dynamic touring schedule that you have, like, how do you keep your vocal consistency with all of those touring dates? Like, how do you keep your voice healthy and, not ruin your voice and not get hoarse from night to night while you're out there on the road?
So the biggest thing that I do is I rest. Even though we don't have hotels every city, like I have a schedule for show days. Like I sleep until about 12. We have sound check at 3. The sound check, I have a light lunch, and then I'll go back to sleep. And then I get ready. So then my voice is completely, because my voice really doesn't wake up until like after 4, fully on a normal day. So I want to be fully rested for a show. And because our show schedule is like 3 shows back to back or 4 shows back to back, I don't drink liquor on show days. I only drink if we have like off day the next day or something like that. If we have a travel day. So I don't really drink. That's helpful. And, I just try like to center myself. I do my devotions, I meditate, I pray. I try not to be overactive or over, what's the word? Extroverted. I'm trying to be over extroverted in my social settings. Like, I still hang out with the crew, but I can hang out and be like, more reserved when I'm hanging out. Just so that I have all my energy for the stage, like, because I don't like to, give a weak performance. So I know what's necessary for me. And then it was crazy. Like, I'm one of the oldest people on my team. I'm normally always the youngest person on my team, but like now I'm like the old head. So all the bands, they're young, they're in their 20s. They can turn up and put on a show and sweat and drip and like it's okay. Like, no, I'm 30 and I'm technically like the old person. Like, so I do things a little differently, but it works for me. So I'm more confident now to like stand on what I will and what I do. So yeah,
that's really
works.
cool. Yeah, I mean, that's to have that kind of dynamic where you're out there on the road, at least you're really cool with everybody, and that makes me want to ask too, like with that, like with the people that you on tour with, the band, the musicians, the artists, and all of that kind of stuff. I know that collaboration and working well together with them is like really, really important. So, like, talk a little bit about how you guys work together and how you are able to collaborate and, stay creative as just musicians and artists. Like, is that something important that is kind of, weaved into what you guys already do or and who you are as people?
Well, our team hasn't really collaborated as together yet, but we are very supportive of each other individually. We share, we repost, we comment, we make sure we support each other. Because everybody is doing something, like from the drummer to the other singer that I sing with, like we all operate in our capacity full time. So we just try to like, support what we can.
Yeah, you guys support each other on social media and stuff like that. I mean, and you are aware of each other's projects and products and stuff that you have and all of that kind of stuff. That's really cool. But like, so when you're working together on stage, yeah, okay. And that you have that camaraderie, right? Is that something that, like, when you guys hang out and, after shows and stuff like that, is that something that contributes to you guys having a better show?
Yeah, definitely. The energy is half of the job is camaraderie. I tell people all the time, because you're only singing while you're on stage, or you're only performing when you're on stage or rehearsal. So the majority of the job is just being around people and, talking, hanging out, listening and helping out where you can. For me, coming into the Ella camp, I was replacing someone. So that their bond was already solidified, but it worked out because they just welcomed me. It wasn't like they're gonna give me a hard time or anything like that. They were, ready to get to this next level, and I was a part of that. So yeah, they definitely embraced me, and we have a good time together. We cut up all the time because we all low-key church kids, so that even makes it even easier to have fun with each other.
Yeah. So what are some, like, life out there on the road, like when you're out there and you're gone for long periods of time, like what is a typical day like? Like you wake up in the morning, I know you shared a little bit of it already, but go into a little bit of detail about what a typical day for you is like as a touring artist.
Just kind of depends. Like if we're on the bus, then, I'm pretty much, there's no personal space on the tour bus besides your bunk. So I try to stay in my bunk and like, pull myself together, make sure, I'm ready to be around people. I'm ready to socialize and things like that. But on a show day, if we have a hotel, like I just kind of, do my devotion, things that like I do normally at home. I try to work out on the road. That is always happen, but I try. And I just try to, prepare myself for the entire day. Like on a show day, we don't get into the venue until noon. So then we have sound check from 3 to 4:30. So I know for between the time we get to the venue on the bus until the time we can get in, like I need to be ready to be in sound check or ready to be present to work. So yeah, it just kind of varies depending on if we're on the bus, we have rooms. But I like to take my private time seriously because you don't get it often. So when you can, you just take it.
Sure. And then so on the show day, what time is like the normal show? Does it start like maybe like 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, and you have to be there like?
We go up around 9 o'clock. So we'll be at the venue literally all day or in a dressing room. So
okay, so once you get there for sound check, you kind of stay at the venue for the rest of the day. Mm-hmm. Gotcha. Yeah, that makes sense. And then how long are the show sets?
I set it 75 minutes. So not too long, but it goes by really fast actually. But it's about 75 minutes, yeah. And we have an opening act before us.
Okay, so I mean your show, like when you're on with an artist, the part of your show is about 75 minutes. Mm-hmm. Okay, yeah, that's pretty cool. That's usually what I've heard about tours and what artists and stuff are doing on the roads now. Around an hour and a half, maybe hour, 75 minutes or so. So yeah, that's pretty close to what I've heard about it. So that's pretty cool. So how about we talk a little bit about some industry stuff, and then, looking back from when you first started, you talked about, getting out there on the road in like 2016, and, looking back from that point until now, what changes have you seen like in the industry as far as with trends and people and how things are different, or have you seen any differences between when you first started and now?
Yes and no. The differences that are most noticeable is that the work demand is a lot bigger than it was before. I think COVID changed a lot, and depending on how you were connected in the industry, if you weren't in LA, you really can't work. So I think that has drastically affected the demand and how it's dispersed beyond for people to work as background singers or just in the industry period. Yeah, that's the most noticeable change. I mean, they always say, networking is everything, and it really is. It's really about who you know. It's about, your connections, your relationships, and not just, being connected to somebody for a short period of time. Like, how do you, elongate that connection so it's not like this, it's a one-off kind of thing. Like that doesn't look good. So, it's just about how you develop and sustain those relationships. And fortunately, I got into the industry and on a more mainstream level, because at first I was just working with older artists and touring with them. But when I got to do more work for more mainstream artists, it was because of the connection that I had with a musician based in Houston, and I did a lot of work for him. Like, he would always call me for studio work. I would always tell him, like, I want to work. He was like, all right, so I put you to work. And then me working for him allowed me to meet somewhat of a shot caller, for lack of a better word, in the industry, Adam Blackstone. And when I met him, I auditioned for him, and he remembered me. So he remembered me through the connection of the person that I worked for in Houston, who's Terrence Vaughn. So working for Terrence Vaughn, connecting me to Adam Blackstone and auditioning for him, standing out in the audition, and he just remembered me, and that's how he plugged me in with Ella. So, and then from there, I just started doing all kinds of things. Like I did background tracks for Normani for some of her TV performances or tour performances. SZA, like all kind of people. Like, my voice is on like a lot of shows. You won't ever know it because you won't see me, but my voice is there. So yeah, just sustaining those relationships. And Adam is one of the heaviest players of the industry right now. Just so
I talk to people all the time about how important collaboration is, and connecting with other people and networking. That's a buzzword that I use frequently, that I talk about, because it's so important. Like, it really is about who you know, and about staying connected to people and developing those relationships. And you just spoke to that. So that's proof in the pudding that it staying connected actually works. So then what would you say are like, to someone who is just looking to start out and get into the music industry, maybe not even touring yet, but ultimately touring and getting out there on the road, but just getting their foot in the door in the music industry? What would you say are some things that are important for them to do, or maybe look out for, or maybe to start doing now, so that they can prepare themselves to be out there and be in the music industry and touring?
I think number one is get connected in your city, have a music life in every city. So just get connected to where's the live music, or what's happening, or corporate bands, or that's always a good start that people don't. Actually, corporate band is really the best start, to be honest, because it prepares you for the type of work to be in a mainstream level. So if you can get connected in your city, figure out the live music places or the people who are running things, get connected. And social media is kind of everything at this point. Like, if you're not doing things on social media, people don't know who you are. So social media is very important. And just find things that set you apart. I know for me, I used to always, kind of get upset with myself, because I felt like on the local scene where I'm from, I wasn't really accepted. But it's not that I wasn't accepted, or it's not that I wasn't good. It just wasn't for me. It didn't work for me. So I found my niche doing corporate things and more private parties, things like that. That just kind of separated me in the game. And so when you do separate yourself and you have a certain resume built for yourself in that way, it makes it easier on who calls who, So it worked out for me. But I used to, think that I had to be in a club every night, and it's no diss or anything like that, but it just wasn't for me.
Yeah, that's really good advice. Actually, you and I met through through a corporate band or whatever. So that's really cool, and we kind of was able to work together and stuff on that. And that makes me want to ask too. So it's been some years now, Chelsea, since you and I met each other. So what was, like, when you and I worked together, what would you say, like, that experience was like for you? Like, I know it was, around that time where you were kind of starting out there, what you're talking about in the 2016, 2015 kind of time. So what was that experience like, working together with, the bands and stuff that we work with, and just you and I?
Oh man, it's great practice. Like, that's just really what it is. It's great practice. Yeah. Like, you get a chance to sing top 40 songs, which is pop music mostly, and you create a demographic of content that you can create as a vocalist or a singer. So it was great practice, like being on the stage, even though it was weddings or corporate parties or whatever it was. Like, it was still an opportunity to practice performing. And I think that's where a lot of people don't have that box check, because to perform is not just entertaining, is not just singing a song. It's like, it's all about how you look. It's about how you work the stage. It's about how you sing the song. Like, it all matters. Like, and corporate bands definitely set the standard for great practice and consistent practice, because they work a lot. So.
Absolutely. That's absolutely correct. Yeah. And you brought up something there, and it's a question I'll ask you, because I get it a lot from a lot of, especially, female artists, female singers and musicians and stuff like that, about dress and about how to dress appropriately for gigs and what to wear and all of that kind of stuff. And should you have like different types of outfits and all of that kind of stuff? So how would you answer that question? Like, as a female vocalist, as an artist, like, how important is dress, and what are maybe some different types of outfits that you should have?
Image is everything. So a part of your image is the biggest part of your image is how you look. So in a corporate setting, like, I would just have different varieties of cocktail dresses or suits, like, sequins, anything. Yeah, image is everything. And unfortunately, it separates a lot of people getting hired because depending on the type of work they're looking for, if you don't look the part, you won't get the part. It's just as simple as that. And you don't have to be the greatest singer, but you have to look the part.
That's really, really interesting to to know, and that's some fun insight, especially coming from a few, as a
woman.
Guy,
a
guy's a little bit different for us. I mean, you put on a nice shirt and suit or some slacks or something, you're good to go. But as a female artist, vocalist, even piano player, drummer, whatever, like looking the part is really important. So I'm glad you shared that. That's a question that I get from a lot of female musicians about asking about what to wear and how important is dress and all of that. So you would say then maybe like, again, for like the formal stuff and the weddings, the corporate stuff, maybe like a sequins dress, cocktail dress and stuff like that. And then
sequins works. It goes over great. Like, it's an easy win. They take you more seriously when you're dressed the part. They respect you. They think they think you're a celebrity. Like, they don't think you're like a normal person. They think because you're dressed how you are and you're on the stage, they consider you a professional.
Right. So then what would you say then about dress for like the other types of gigs, like the club stuff, maybe the non-corporate stuff, just, regular club night on a Friday night or something like that?
I would say that's based on your personality. You go as however you see fit. I don't think there's like necessarily a rule or a standard per se for that, but just however you feel.
Gotcha. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So thank you so much, Chelsea, for sharing all of this insight. It's been so good to talk to you. So good to see you. We hadn't talked in a while, and it was good to catch you out here while you're out on the road. So are you working on, like, while you're out, I know you're touring and it's hard to do both, but are you working on any projects of your own? I know you have some stuff out now already, but are you working on anything new? You are.
I am. So I have an album that I'm releasing in July, but before July, I'm releasing a single in May. So I'm very excited about that. I haven't made music as an artist in 7 years. So the journey to get from where I was 7 years ago as an artist to now is very deep, and I had a lot to say. So I'm glad really cool that I finally put the energy into getting it done. And I would say the biggest holdup for me in that situation was seeing myself as an artist. But I think we make the mistake sometimes of operating in one capacity, and that's all people see you as. They don't see you as an artist, or they don't see you as a songwriter or anything. They only see you as a background singer. And I think I allowed that to kind of handicap me for a little bit, because that was all that was the only capacity that I operated in. And once I changed my mindset of remembering who I was before I started doing background singing, because I started doing background singing because I wanted to be an artist. Like, I wanted to be an artist. So that never left. But because you get so comfortable in your capacity, it's like, you kind of forget. But, I just reminded myself, and I'm glad that I got it done. It's really, really good. And I'm not just saying it because it's mine. Like, it's really, really good. And I can't wait to share it.
That's cool. That is so cool. I can't wait to hear it. I hope you look, when we get offline, I want you to share some of it with me. I want to hear some of it.
Okay, yeah, I will.
Yeah, I already know it's going to be great. So again, thank you, Chelsea, so much for sharing all of these insights with us and taking the time. I know you're busy. You're on tour right now. So thank you so much for taking the time to share, these really important industry insights with us. So why don't you tell people where they can find you? What's your social media handles, your website, and all of that kind of stuff for people who want to, follow you and buy your music and all of that kind of stuff? Where can we find you online?
So yeah, you can find me on social media, and all my handles are the Chelsea Cymone. So my Instagram, my Facebook, and all of my music profiles are Chelsea Cymone. So you can find me on all digital platforms, and yeah, that's how you can find me.
Awesome. Thank you again so much, Chelsea. And thank you guys for watching and listening to this podcast. Again, this is some really cool nuggets that were shared today by an industry professional. So take heed if you want to, be out there on the road. You want to start in the music industry. You want to get this thing going for yourself. Now you have some knowledge to get started on. We'll see you in the next podcast.